All right. Alrighty, good morning. It is 9:30 on April 25th, and I am calling to order the April meeting of the Employment Training Panel. Can I pass over to staff for housekeeping and ground rules?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending the April panel meeting. Before we begin, there are a few housekeeping announcements. If you are here in the auditorium, in order to avoid a persistent disruption of the proceedings, please do not stream via mobile device or connect to Zoom platform, as it will interfere with our recording and sound system. If you are attending the meeting in person and presenting or providing comment, please step up to the podium and speak clearly. For those who are viewing or attending the meeting virtually and would like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand feature and wait for your name to be called, at which time you will be unmuted. Please speak clearly, state your name, title, and the company you are representing. You will be given 3 minutes to speak. We will now proceed with roll call. Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill,
Present.
Mike Hill, Gretchen Newsom, Rebecca Betancourt,
Present.
Ricky Smiles,
Present.
Mike Greenlee,
Here.
Derek Kirk.
Here.
Chair Betancourt, there are 8 members present. There is a quorum. Also present, Jessica Grimes, Executive Director, Peter Cooper, Assistant Director, Kumani Armstrong, Assistant Director, Chief Counsel, Tara Armstrong, CIO, Chief of Technology, and Laura Campbell, Chief Program Operations.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to move straight to approval of this month, April's panel meeting agenda. Are there any questions, movement that needs to be done, or do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Can we go to a roll call?
Douglas Tracy.
Aye.
Jennifer Fothergill.
Aye.
Mike Hill.
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom.
Aye.
Rebecca Betancourt.
Aye.
Ricky Smiles.
Aye.
Mike Greenlee.
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
All right, so now we're going to go to, it was not March, it was February's meeting agenda, meeting minutes. Do we have anyone who has any corrections or changes need to be made to the prior panel meetings minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any public comment on those meeting minutes? Just checking. All right, we'll go to vote.
Douglas Tracy.
Aye.
Jennifer Fothergill.
Aye.
Mike Hill.
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom.
Aye.
Rebecca Betancourt.
Aye.
Mike Greenlee.
Aye.
Ricky Smiles.
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so we are now going to hand it over to staff for the executive reports.
Thank you, Chair Betancourt. Good morning and welcome to another amazing ETP panel meeting. I believe I speak for everyone in being excited to be back in the Cal EPA building. I'd like to note a new addition to the panel. The GoBiz designee, Derek Kirk. Chris Dombrowski has accepted another position, so we are excited to have Derek join us today. He serves as the Senior Advisor for the Economic Development Department in the GoBiz agency. Among the many exciting projects Derek oversees is the California Jobs First initiative. ETP has been tracking its investments across the 13 regions and is looking forward to more opportunities to support this statewide effort. Also, I want to make another quick note about today's panel that there are 2 proposal formats. The reason for that is those applications received before January 1st, 2025 follow the former proposal template, and those received on or after January 1st, 2025 are in compliance with SB 1321, which became effective January 1st, 2025. Today's panel has a fuller agenda with several presentations. So I am recommending, including myself, that we all practice smart brevity whenever possible. Moving on, some quick highlights for today's proposals are that 76% are from repeat contractors. In addition, 59% are in the priority industry sector of manufacturing, 47% small businesses, 29% from high unemployment areas. Review and action on these proposals will be presented by the following managers, Heather Miguel and Jana Lazarovich. And now for the continuation of the executive report, we have the following presenters: a legislative update from our legal unit with Kumani and Mac, an IT update, and a request to adopt the consent calendar as well. So that concludes my portion of the executive report. So I will hand it over to Kumani and Mac for the legislative report. Thank you.
Good morning, panel. Mike Cable, staff attorney. Thank you. That was my brevity. I was gonna go brevity. Sorry about that. As you know, your legal unit tracks pending legislation, and you should have received a copy of the legislation memorandum. It should be up there for you. There's one at the back of the room as well for anybody who wants to look at it. We're now in our 2025-2026 legislative session, and bills are working their way through committees at this time, with June 6th being the last day for each house to pass bills introduced in that house. Regarding the legislation memorandum, there are two bills of particular interest that I'd like to talk and share with you today. The first one is AB 765, which starts at the bottom of page 1, which would prohibit monies in the Employment Training Fund from being diverted, transferred, or otherwise used to pay interest charged on federal loans to the unemployment fund without the approval of the legislature by statute and a public report justifying the necessity for the diversion, transfer, or use. We talked about this bill at our last public meeting. We also had Phil Herrera, I think, shared some comments about it. ETP remains agnostic in regards to this bill. At this time, I was checking the status. It has been re-referred back to the Committee on Insurance. My understanding is that it may have some difficulty getting out of that committee, so we'll continue to track it to see if it'll die there, become a 2-year bill or what have you. So we'll just continue to track it, but it's still in committee. The second bill of particular interest is AB 1186, which starts at the bottom of page 2. AB 1186 would pretty much do two things. One would potentially expand the requirements regarding categories of demographic information that we receive. And two, it would establish a chief statistician of California who would be required to standardize the collection of demographic data across state agencies. We can see how this bill may potentially impact ETP and how we are receiving and handling demographic information. Your legal unit is tracking that bill, and we've shared this information with the tech folks, and we're following it as it goes through the process and through the development. I believe yesterday I saw that it was set for hearing for an April 30th hearing, so we should probably hear a little bit more regarding this bill, but it will be continue to track it and share it with the people internally that will need to know that information. Those are the two bills that I was going to share with you today. I will leave it open for any questions or comments, and if none, I will quickly pass it on to the next presenter. And there we
Anything
go.
from Mac? No.
I believe I'm the next person.
My pleasure, and I'm handing it over to Tara as our next person.
Good morning, panel members and stakeholders. So my name is Tara Armstrong, your Deputy Director for ETP. Keep it short and sweet today. I have an information technology update on external facing changes. So under our CaliForce system, we have implemented SB 1321. I think you've heard some information about that, which includes changes to our application for the self-attestations and questions to collect priority information, fringe benefits, and wage progression. This bill also includes a posting and a list of applications that are submitted to ETP that we refresh every 60 days. A new feature was also implemented to assist in managing trainee changes. So this now allows our contractors to do mass drop trainees, to change job numbers and locations for a group of trainees in a system rather than doing this one at a time. Reference guides and videos are also available on our website, and you're welcome to contact our command center for any assistance. And under our Cali grant system, the Electronic Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program, EVITP, was built in-house for applicants to apply to this grant, and you'll hear more about that from Heather today. And that concludes my presentation, unless there's any questions. I'm passing it to Laura.
All right. Good morning and welcome panel members and stakeholders. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a summary of the Employment Training Panel's funding. Before beginning my analysis on current funding allocations and demand, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Michelle Irwin, who has joined ETP as a new manager of the Program Projects Unit. Regarding funding, Today's panel meeting is approximately for $3 million. That includes 6 approved delegation orders for a total of $332,920. Delegation orders are proposals capped at $75,000 and approved under delegated authority by the director on a continuous flow basis. For this state fiscal year, ETP has approved a total of 29 delegation orders. In addition, we have 4 projects on the consent calendar for $674,430. If all the proposals scheduled for this panel meeting are funded today, the panel will be approving 15 projects. Regarding demand, we have 222 applications in demand. 115 applications are currently with the regional offices in development. 27 applications are under review by the Application and Assessment Unit, and 80 submitted applications are pending review. The estimated value of 222 applications is $110.3 million and breaks down as follows: $34.2 million in demand for single employer contracts, $13.7 million in demand for small business, and $62 million in demand for multiple employer contractors. $446,655 in demand for apprenticeships, and $52,416 in demand for critical proposals. Regarding allocations, we are currently within our total allocation for the state fiscal year 24-25. That concludes my report, and I have one action item related to the consent calendar. Please note that CP Manufacturing, Inc., Tab 1 has withdrawn and will attend at a later panel date. Also, 2 proposals have been removed from the consent calendar: Structure Therapeutics Tab 4, the Olive Oil Factory LLC Tab 5. I would like to request that panel members identify if they would like to pull the remaining proposals from today's consent calendar, and then for a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of the 2 proposals that have been removed, which will be heard individually in order.
Okay, so just to confirm, Laura, before I ask them for a vote, it is just tabs 2 and 3 on consent. Just confirming. Okay.
Yes.
Does anyone want to pull tab 2 or 3 from consent? Do I have a motion on the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar as amended.
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment on the consent calendar? It's running in the room. Anyone online?
There are no public comments online.
All right, then we'll move to vote.
Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill, Mike Hill,
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom, Rebecca Betancourt,
Aye.
Ricky Smiles,
Aye.
Mike Greenlee,
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
All righty, so we're all in favor. Those consent calendars were approved.
All right. Thank you. I would like to hand it back to you, Madam Chair, for the next topic on the agenda.
Thank you. I think we're going to panel packets now, if my agenda serves me right.
We might go to policy.
Oh, policy.
Maybe.
Yeah, you can tell me. My brain is somewhere else. I'm like straight in. We could do policy now or later,
Like to
whichever
do
you'd like.
policy now. Thank you. Our ETP Policy Committee met yesterday afternoon with attendees both in person and over Zoom. Approximately 100 folks joined us. The meeting topics flowed as follows. We had a discussion on the content of MEC proposals in order to gain further information into the ways different MEC or multiple employer contractors models operate, especially as concerns have been raised related to their participating employers and how they develop curriculum. MECs will be sent a survey within the next few weeks, and all MECs are encouraged to participate in the survey. Very robust discussion on that. We also had a discussion on ETP contract revisions, both on the quantity and the type of revisions that are requested, and on potential ways that we can modify our revisions process. More data on revision requests will be coming to Policy Committee, especially regarding the different types of revision requests we receive and on the timing of those revision requests. We had an action item to approve revisions to the Veterans Guidelines, and these revisions were approved by committee and will be coming before a panel for full approval, likely next month or at the next panel meeting. Similarly, we also had an action item to approve revisions to what was called the Ex-Offender At-Risk Youth Guidelines and soon to be known as the Justice-Involved Opportunity Youth Guidelines. And these revisions were approved by committee and will also be coming before panel for full approval at a future panel meeting. And anyone wishing to suggest a potential agenda topic for future policy committee meetings can email their suggestions to Liz Testa, our policy manager, and have a great meeting.
Thank you. Any questions from the panel on those items from Gretchen? Another lively conversation at policy. It was a nice long one again. Not as long as last time, but it was long. All right, we are now moving to proposals.
Okay, good morning, panel. We'll start with tab 4. This is a proposal from Structure Therapeutics USA, Inc., doing business as Structure Therapeutics. They are a new contractor requesting $189,000 to train a total of 90 workers. Training will take place at their location in South San Francisco, and representatives from Structure Therapeutics are here to answer any questions.
Good morning, panel. My name is Marianne Bartolo, and my role at Structure Therapeutics is Senior Director, HR Business Partner, and happy to be here.
Thank you. Any questions from the panel on this proposal? You may go first if you'd like. I can. You want me to go first? Oh, okay. So you want me to go first, unless anyone else has any questions. Okay, we'll probably have the same. So we were looking at your proposal. We've had several with the same, I'm going to say, training vendor recently. And so we just wanted to get a better understanding of the role of how you found out about the training vendor, because it seems to be coming up quite a lot. How you found out about Hands-On, the role that you worked with them, and how you developed that contract.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was familiar with Hands-On actually because I worked with Hands-On at a previous company as well. And because they specialize in learning and organizational development, specifically in life sciences, that was really what attracted me from a previous company to get to know Hands-On and what they offer. So coming to Structure, knowing their business model and also knowing the types of courses and learnings that they offer, it fit the model of what Structure's looking for in the stage of growth that we're in. And also to target the employee trainings that have been coming through in terms of the feedback we have gotten from our internal stakeholders and more importantly, employees in terms of what they're looking for.
Okay. And I look at this contract as a first-time contractor. I have to double check my reading there. First-time contractor, you have 55 employees here in California. You're looking at training 90 with a growth of 45.
Yes.
The administration that this contract carries is quite a bit of administration on the back end from an employer perspective. Many take a third-party contractor. Again, it's totally independent of your choice of which way. Can you help me understand how you're going to manage this, especially when you're saying, I'm going to bring in 45, training all 55 that I currently have. So you're almost doubling,
Yes.
as well as managing that contract, as well as managing, I'm assuming it's a fairly small organization, all of those new hires, onboarding, everything like that. How you plan to manage that ecosystem with the training?
Yeah, thank you for recognizing that. So myself, along with 2 of my colleagues on the HR team, will be helping to administer the management of this. And, and especially when it comes to onboarding. In fact, the 3 of us are doing that now, and we're hoping to continue that as well.
Any other questions from panel?
A follow-up, just so I can further understand the relationship with Hands-On and the training vendor. Are they coming to your facility to provide the training and you're not going to their facility to receive the training?
So it's actually going to be a mix. There could be on-site training, but also because we do have some remote colleagues within California, we want to
Okay.
offer also e-learning or over Zoom as well. So it'll be
Okay.
a mix.
Got
Yeah.
it. So what I'm trying to get at and understand is if there is the possibility where your employees and workers that are receiving this training are now in the same room with all these other employees and trainings from other contracts and other workers, and if that's what's happening here, like that sends to me a kind of a red flag because Hands-On is being seen so often in a variety of different contracts. It's not just you.
Sure.
So that's what is kind of pinging in the back of my head right now. It's like, if that's what's happening, then that's a little bit awkward, strange.
Yeah, well, we've worked with Hands-On to make sure that our training plan is customized to our needs. So that's our intention.
Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks.
Any other questions from panel? I think my one piece, and I just see it with the growth, is please, 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 if you keep an eye on your contract, if you feel like, and I say this because it's about past performance, coming in, you're growing, you've got onboarding, you've got all of these things going on at the same time. In my day job, run L&D, work with HR, understand that ecosystem very, very well. And knowing that and having managed contracts in the past as well, just keep an eye on it. And if you're
Sure.
feeling that it's like, hey, my numbers aren't feeling right, reach out to staff and say, hey, can you help us? Or do we need to think about a contract? Because it's quite a large amount with doubling of staff. It's almost doubling your entire population here in California, which is
Yeah.
great for the job market. But I also just want to make sure you're successful here.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
we do look at performance and prior performance when awarding on a repeat. And so if you're under a certain percentage, it can actually hurt you. So that's why I'm just saying, please be, raise your hand if it is. Staff will find ways to help as much as they can to work through. So they're there to help and support. They're not there as like the monitor evaluator and be like, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So if there is ever that, because I just look at this is a aggressive growth at the same time as running a training contract. So good luck with it though.
Thank you. Appreciate
Any
that.
other questions from anyone else? No? Okay. I'm going to ask.
Like
Does
to
Go
have a
on.
motion to approve the training proposal for Structure Therapeutics USA, Inc., DBA Structure Therapeutics, and an ETP funding amount of $189,000.
Second.
All right. Do I have any public comment?
There are no public comments online.
And no one's coming up to the podium, so we will move to vote.
Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill, Mike Hill,
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom,
Aye.
Rebecca Betancourt,
Aye.
Ricky Smiles,
Aye.
Mike Greenlee,
Aye.
Derek Kurt.
Aye.
All right. So we voted. We're all in favor. So the motion's adopted and you're funded. Good luck with it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Good morning. Happy Friday, panel members. We're going to jump to tab 6. We have nope, excuse me, tab 5. Here I go again. The Olive Oil Factory. They are a repeat contractor with good prior performance. They are requesting $110,880 to train a total of 99 workers. Training will take place at their facility locations in Fairfield, and representatives from the Olive Oil Factory are here to answer any questions you may have.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. My name is Kelly Miller. I'm the Senior HR Manager at the Olive Oil Factory. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Good morning. Any questions?
Yes. So I just wanted to have a little bit of a conversation here because your last contract, the approved amount was 30,000, but the earnings was only 81%. And so now you're coming in for triple the amount. And I just wanted to have the conversation with you of like, what are you doing to ensure that you're going to have a much higher payment earned percentage? We want you to be successful, but what's going to change for this time around?
Sure, absolutely. So since our first contract, we were 33 individuals. We are now 118. During our last contract, we were still dealing with COVID. Also, too, I was a one-person HR team at that time. Also, part of our contract, I was on maternity leave. So moving forward, we're now 3 individuals in our HR team, as well as bringing on a training specialist in July.
Any other questions from panel? No? Do I have any movement on this or any other questions?
Move to approve the training proposal for the Olive Oil Factory LLC and an ETP funding amount of $110,880.
Second.
Thank you. Do I have any public comment?
There are no public comments online.
I was just walking back in, so no public comment in the room. We will move to vote.
Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill, Mike Hill,
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom,
Aye.
Rebecca Betancourt,
Aye.
Ricky Smiles,
Aye.
Mike Hill, Mike Greenlee,
There. All right.
Derek Kurt.
Aye.
Alrighty, we found out who we each are and the motion's adopted. You are funded. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Alrighty, we will move on to tab 6. This is a proposal for Cepheid. They are a repeat contractor with good prior performance. They are requesting $598,080 to train a total of 356 workers. Training will take place at their locations in Lodi, Sunnyvale, Newark, and Fremont. And the representatives from Cepheid are here to answer any questions.
Hi, my name is Esther Rivera. I'm the Director of Learning and Development for Cepheid. I'm here on behalf of Cepheid to ask for additional ETP training funds. Cepheid is an industry leader in molecular diagnostics. We make testing for basic viruses and infectious diseases, including COVID, RSV, tuberculosis, but also sexual health and oncology. We dramatically support the training of the associates throughout their tenure with Cepheid. We continue to support high retention and make sure that they're skilled not only in the technical skills, but the soft skills and the transfer of those skills. I appreciate your continued support.
Thank you and welcome. Any questions from panel on this proposal?
I do have one question. Thank you for being here today. So I noticed that your turnover rate is slightly higher, and you are a larger company. I also reading through your proposal, there's lots of cross training, there's evaluation. So if you can explain to me that slightly elevated turnover rate, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have had a number of incidences where we've had to have reduction. For example, in 2024, there was about 600 associates impacted in a reduction of the Bay Area locations. Within that, that was part of a larger plan to transfer our manufacturing hub from the Bay Area to Lodi. So that's majority, for example, of that.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a follow-up on that? So you said two things that hit my ears looking at the proposal and what you said about, you value high retention. You have a 14% at the moment due to some due to some layoffs and et cetera. If I go back to your proposal from prior years, because every time someone has a prior contract, some of us go back and read them and look at our notes and other things. You wrote in the last one in 2023, turnover was at 9%, that you were also looking to increase the workforce by 750 in that period. What I'm seeing is actually almost the opposite, where the turnover's gone up and we've had layoffs. I'm just curious what was going on. Are we still looking at growth? Because it's almost two sides of that piece. Does that make sense?
I understand that can be conflicting. The plan from long-term strategy for the business was to transfer our workforce manufacturing hub from the Bay Area to the Lodi area. So a lot of that was within that. We did add those large numbers of new hires to the Lodi site, but then unfortunately at the same time, there was that reduction happening in the Bay Area. Within that as well, we have just purchased a new building within Lodi, and that's under renovation right now, and we'll be expanding and adding new training for that over the next couple of years.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Motion to approve Cepheid ET contract number 25-0255 in the amount of $598,080.
Second.
Thank you. So I have first or second. Do we have any public comment?
There are no public comments online.
And looks like there are none in the room, so we'll move to vote.
Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill, Mike Hill.
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom.
Aye.
Rebecca Bettencourt.
Aye.
Ricky Smiles.
Aye.
Mike Greenlee.
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
All right, so we were all in favor. The motion's adopted and you're funded.
Thank you
Good
so
luck.
much.
Thank you for the approval. I just want to give a shout out to staff, also the GoBiz staff that helps with the other incentives. And for those of us who live in Stockton, Lodi, we are stoked about this. It's a lot of good jobs. We're pretty much an ag-based economy. So to have biotech there is really an honor. It's an honor to work with Cepheid too. So thank you again for your approval.
Okay, next up we have tab 7. This is a proposal from Altos Labs, Inc. They are a new contractor requesting $472,500 to train a total of 375 workers. Training will take place at their locations in Redwood City and San Diego, and representatives from Altos are here to answer any questions.
Thank you, panel. Thank you for reading and hearing the proposal. My name is Connie White, and I'm the Chief People Officer for Altos Labs.
Thank you. And welcome. Any questions on this proposal?
I was hopeful you could talk to me a little bit about the wage progression anticipated for the workers that are receiving this training specific to the technical staff and the operations staff. Because I can see the wage range right now is between $30 an hour up to $115 an hour. Pretty significant range there. Great, like the higher end. But how soon can those workers or team members anticipate a wage progression or a bump up in their wages? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. We conduct a biannual compensation review, and during that compensation review, we look at benchmarks. We use 3 companies for benchmarks, and we also look at specifically in the life sciences and technology space as well. We benchmark with companies that are both medium size as well as larger size, and competitors with various market caps that are attuned to our industry. During that, we analyze job families, and we make sure that we pay our employees the minimum of the salary range at least. And we also do specific talent assessment twice yearly, in which we take a look at the talent and make sure that they're being not only compensated, but their development planning is on track for growth in our company. Thanks for the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I do have one, unless you're going. You go ahead. I can see you got something highlighted. I'm gonna let you go.
Probably the same
Probably
thing
the same
highlighted.
thing, yeah.
So you were in the room when we just had a discussion about the hands-on vendor.
Yes.
And in this contract, their anticipated cost or earnings would be 200,000,
Mhm.
which is a little bit less than half of your total contract. And we saw them again at last panel, but we haven't ever seen hands-on themselves. So we're kind of relying on you to explain what's going on here. And if you could elaborate on the context of your specific relationship and how they're specializing training to your members rather than the other folks of what they're doing.
Yeah, very fair question. So I worked with Hands-On when I worked at Genentech previously, and they helped build out job architectures for major functions that I worked in, and did a really successful job. So I was very satisfied with that work. And then they continued to have a good reputation and delivered what they needed to do on time. So when I came into this role, they had built a team of facilitators with whom I've worked previously that were really good and had good professional credibility. We both have in-house as well as out-of-house. So I would consider myself an expert in the learning and development space, and particularly scrutinize, is the training applicable to our needs? And we're looking at going out to labs, which I believe Hands-On can help with, is not only like what is biotechnology and the growth of biotechnology and where can it go? For example, we have both employees and leaders from academia and industry, and that was the whole model in which we were constructed. So we want to make sure that everybody has a full understanding of biotechnology in which they can help facilitate programs that are sound, as well as the soft skills that are required to have compelling scientific presentations. And our whole model of working is built on this collaboration, this synergy between academia and industry, and very different approaches to our science. So with that said, those soft skills include presentation skills, include emotional intelligence, include how to collaborate, which I believe their cadre of facilitators are able to help us deliver. But I will have, and as I do with current training, very significant oversight into quality, even pre-reads. They had done a workshop with us last year, which was a trial to see how did it go and, evaluate. And I went through and I looked through the pre-read, I looked through the content, and it was very collaborative. So I appreciated their responsiveness, the quality of the training. We received, I think, a score of 92% satisfaction. So it was good for me to see that with some topics that were important to our organization, they were able to deliver. Thank you, Gretchen.
Any other questions? All right, so anyone have?
Motion to approve Altos Labs, Inc. ET contract number 25-0247 in the amount of $472,500.
Second.
All right, so I have a first and a second. Do I have any public comment?
There are no public comments online.
And they look like there are none in the room, so we will move to vote.
Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill, Mike Hill,
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom,
Aye.
Rebecca Betancourt,
Aye.
Ricky Smiles,
Aye.
Mike Greenlee,
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
All
Thank you
right, so
very
we're
much.
all in favor and the motion's adopted. You're funded.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next up is tab 8. This is a proposal from BK Lighting, Inc. They are a repeat contractor with good prior performance, requesting $204,120 to train a total of 90 workers. Training will take place at their location in Madera, and representatives from BK Lighting are here to answer any questions.
Hi, panel. Good morning. My name is Jennifer Owens. I'm a human resources generalist at BK Lighting. I just wanted to say thank you to the ETP program for all the benefits that we've been able to have with this program previously, and to all of you.
Thank you. Does anyone, watching microphones being handed over, does anyone have any questions on this proposal? Oh, I feel like I've woken up. Yeah. Did someone turn my voice? It's just like suddenly I'm loud. Does anyone have any questions on this proposal? Yep.
First of all, love your name.
Thank you. Same.
But just a quick question. I know you're a smaller company and turnover rates impact large companies, small companies, all differently. And so you're at about a 13%, which is about 11-ish employees. And I noticed in your proposal that you plan to hire around 11. So can you explain the turnover rate a little bit further for me?
Absolutely, yeah. So we decided last year to try to bring something new to our employees by offering them a little mini sandwich shop that was on site for our manufacturing plant and the employees that support. And it unfortunately didn't go as well as we anticipated. And so it opened and then it did close in the same year, laying off about 8%. So it was a significant amount. This year, with the amount of new projects that we're bringing on, it's going to have an increase of 11 employees at, or 11% at least this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right. Then do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the training proposal for BK Lighting in an ETP funding amount of $204,120.
Second.
Any public comment?
There are no public comments online.
Looks like there's none in the room, so we will move to vote, please.
Douglas Tracy,
Aye.
Jennifer Fothergill,
Aye.
Mike Hill,
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom,
Aye.
Rebecca Betancourt,
Aye.
Ricky Smiles,
Aye.
Mike Greenlee,
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
All right, so we're all in favor. You're funded. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next up is tab 9. This is a proposal from CRISP Company. This project has actually been withdrawn from this panel and will attend a future panel meeting. So we'll move on to tab 10. This is a proposal from Mass Precision, Inc. They are a repeat contractor with good prior performance, requesting $344,960 to train a total of 224 workers. Training will take place at their 3 locations in San Jose and Fremont. And also please note there's a correction to the turnover rate. The turnover rate is actually 12%, not 15%. And representatives from Mass Precision are here to answer any questions.
My name's Al Slicky. I am the founder and CEO of Mass Precision. First of all, before I ask you to ask me questions, I want to thank the panel. This may be the last time I come forward with you guys, and just want to say that this is something that makes a difference. And I do thank the state of California for putting it together. What questions can I ask?
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you for the correction on the turnover rate. It's still slightly a little bit higher. Can you explain why there's been some turnover?
I think there's 2 significant reasons. From a business standpoint, we saw a little bit of a drop off, but I think as much as that, as a 41-year-old company, to be very honest, we have a lot of long-term employees. We're starting to see retirements. It's concerning me for the future on that. And of course, I think everyone knows the Bay Area, in particular, San Jose, Fremont areas, is difficult to live in. And so we do have a lot of people that come in from Stockton and Salinas, et cetera, but at some point that wears down on people. So those were the areas that I would look to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from panel? No? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve Mass Precision Inc., ET contract number 25-0271 in the amount of $344,960.
I have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment?
There are no public comments online.
Does not seem to be in the room, so we will move to vote.
Douglas Tracy.
Aye.
Jennifer Fothergill.
Aye.
Mike Hill.
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom.
Aye.
Rebecca Betancourt.
Aye.
Ricky Smiles.
Aye.
Mike Greenlee.
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
All right, so we all voted in favor. The motion's adopted and you're funded. Good luck with it.
Thank you, guys.
You're
Also,
welcome.
thank you to the analysts that help support this process. Appreciate it.
All righty. Turn to tab 11. This is a proposal for Pasadena City College. They are a repeat MEC contractor with good prior performance. They are requesting $407,824 to train a total of 218 workers. Training will take place at the following counties: Fresno, Los Angeles, Monterey, and San Bernardino, and representatives from the college are here to answer any questions.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sasha King, and I work with Pasadena City College. Leslie Thompson, who's the director in the Economic Workforce Office, had a funeral today, actually. So Nico Lazario is here from the college, and I support them as a consultant, along with our training vendor. We're all here to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the panel?
Could you elaborate for me on Pasadena City College is now training workers far away from Pasadena City College? And can you talk to me about the connection of those very far away workers to Pasadena College and what's going on there?
Yes. Good morning. I'm Gordon Kirkpatrick from International Optimum Solutions, DBA Kirkpatrick Enterprises International. We are the ones who are doing a lot of the training for the organization. We have fairly widespread client base. The group in Monterey is another food company, Dole Foods. We've been working with the food industry for decades at this juncture. So we ended up with that. In Monterey, there isn't any funding sources for them. So a lot of companies find it difficult to get their own ETP funds and to administer them. You brought that up earlier. This is a difficult program for them to get into. So that's what happened with Dole Foods in Monterey. They're in the process of being acquired, so we're not even sure that's going to occur. Mission Foods is the other one, which is in Fresno and also in the Bay Area. We've been working with Mission Foods for probably 15 years. They continuously have projects and requirements that we work with them on. But most of the efforts are going to be in the LA zone. There are clients that aren't really being shown up here that are in Vernon. We're working now with a group of employees in the San Gabriel Valley. And the intent, and Leslie's not here, but the intent in our discussion with Leslie is to develop more and more businesses in the Pasadena, San Gabriel Valley. So that's our intent.
Closer to home. Okay, can you, Pasadena City College now, elaborate for me on the training that you are providing through your city college?
Yes, so we have several different avenues that we provide training for. So we have our career center that is specifically for students. We also have the small business development center and the women's business center that we offer to the community, including students, for different kinds of training opportunities. And then we also have PCC Extension, which offers training services academic training as well as workforce training. So those are the things that we have available at this time.
And we're looking to expand the ETP program to accommodate people within the area.
Any other questions? I think for me, I just want to make sure my point of understanding of how you guys are working this contract is one half is working the vendor going out with existing clients and others working on that angle of training, and then Pasadena's focusing more locally, but is opening the door with the vendor side of it to other companies that have connections to be able to use ETP funds for training. So it's a slightly different MEC than we've seen out of many others with a college included. It's an interesting model. It's another
An interesting model. Please take the survey when we send it to you so you can understand.
The reason for the clarification is we're doing some work on MEC applications, and I'm like, this is a different model that we've not necessarily had a conversation on. So good to know. All right. So
Can I just,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I just want to say thanks to Pasadena City College. You guys have been really, really critical to all of our efforts with respect to the Eaton fire and the recovery, and the fact that you all have housed the local DRC so diligently and leveraged both the SBDC and the Women's Business Center. It's meant a lot. My wife's grandmother lives in Altadena, so I get, really, really attached to the impact of the fire. And I know that it's a lot for a campus like yours to take on that type of foot traffic and commitment over such a long period. But if you wouldn't mind taking back to all of your colleagues at Pasadena City College our thanks for your continued commitment to fire recovery.
Absolutely, and that is one of the pillars that we oversee in economic and workforce development.
Awesome. Thank you.
fantastic. All right. So any other comments before I ask for a motion? All right.
Motion to approve Pasadena City College ET contract number 25-0261 in the amount of $407,824.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Any public comment?
There are no public comments online.
Thank you. And does not look like any in the room. So we will move to vote.
Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill,
Aye.
Mike Hill,
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom,
Aye.
Rebecca Betancourt,
Aye.
Ricky Smiles,
Aye.
Mike Greenlee,
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
All right. So we all voted in favor. The motion's adopted and you're funded.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
All right, we are now moving back to, I believe it's going back to staff now. We've done all proposals, correct? My numbers are right. Okay. I think we're going back to staff. I think it's going back to you, isn't it?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I am honored to make this request on behalf of ETP. I mentioned in January that staff were assessing the impact of the LA wildfires, and after making an extensive assessment, we are now requesting up to $2.5 million of our out-of-state competition to support those contractors that have been impacted from the LA wildfires of the panel.
All right. Does anyone on the panel have any questions for Dr. Grimes on the memo around the contractors impacted by wildfires? No? I know she's asking for action, which means we need to make a motion. In her smart brevity here.
Just want to check in. Derek, did you want to do the motion given your prior comments?
Sure. Forgive me, help me understand where the right language is so I don't mess this up. You just need a general motion or you need
I just need a
specific
general, yeah,
language? Great. Well, I will say, and thanks, Gretchen. I appreciate that. You know, it is so critical that every agency in California wrap our minds around how we can leverage and support the most costly natural disasters and unnatural disasters in California state history. It's been something that so many of our agencies have worked on for the last several months straight, and dedicated immense amount of staff time appropriately to this space. And so I appreciate Dr. Grimes, your commitment and your interest from the panel in ensuring that you all are doing your part to support LA wildfire recovery. So with that, I will move for the panel's consideration the request from Dr. Grimes to dedicate $2.5 million to these efforts.
Second.
Had a second. Do we have any public comment?
There are no public comments online.
No one's running to the podium, so we shall move to vote.
Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill,
Aye.
Mike Hill,
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom,
Aye.
Rebecca Betancourt,
Aye.
Ricky Smiles,
Aye.
Mike Greenlee,
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
Alrighty, so we have approved that fund for contractors. You're welcome. Okay, I am now moving over to, I believe it is Willie on apprenticeships.
Good morning, panel members. I just want to give a quick status update on the 25-26 apprenticeship funding. We will follow the same application process as we did last year. Our window will open on May 13th, and will close on June 23rd. Our tentative is still go to the September panel as usual, and after the September panel, we will be convening with stakeholders to discuss changes going into the following fiscal year around the apprenticeship proposals and application. That's the end of my update. Oh, also, let me also add that the funding cap will be also based on the demand that we get.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone have any comments or questions for Willie on panel? No. All right, any public comment on this one?
There are no public comments online.
Does not seem to be in the room, so we are good. We'll move on. You've been let off the hot seat, Willie. We are now moving to funding priorities with Laura.
Thank you. So each year in mid to late spring, ATP reviews our funding strategies for the coming state fiscal year, including project caps, reimbursement rates, allocations, and moratoriums. This presentation does not include information regarding the alternative funds that ETP may receive. So for allocations, staff is recommending the following allocations based on an estimated 102 million in contracting capacity for 25-26. Sorry, anyway, let me read them since they're not on the screen. Single employer, 40%, small business, 5%, critical proposal, 5%, MEC, 25%, apprenticeship, 25%. Perfect, thank you. For project caps, staff is recommending keeping our funding caps the same as 24-25. So that would be 600,000 single employer, 850,000 for critical proposals, and 850,000 for MECs. Please note that apprenticeships is not on here this year because apprenticeships is based on demand, as Willie mentioned in his prior presentation. Reimbursement rates. Staff is recommending keeping our reimbursement rates the same as last year. $11 for computer-based training, $22 apprenticeship, $24 non-priority industry, $28 for retraining. Moratoriums. ETP staff is recommending a continuation of the moratorium on the following types of projects: adult entertainment, car dealerships, commission on retail trades, gambling, mortgage banking, multi-level marketing, partners and principals in professional firms, revision requests to increase funding and training for employment of training agencies. There's been no changes on that from last year. So the action item, staff is requesting panel approval for the following items as described below for the 25-26 fiscal year: reimbursement rates, project caps, allocations, and moratoriums. Any questions?
Just following up, can we go back to the caps, please? So is there not, apprenticeship proposals were removed. They typically had a cap of 600,000, but it's based off of demand, so it's going to be a much lower anticipated amount. But we also have similar demand with the MECs too. So is that not taken into consideration for this? Because what we just heard from the demand component that you reported on, I think I jotted down, like, there's a lot of demand for MECs monies. So would you go ahead?
The difference is that the apprenticeship has a window. Unlike the MECs where it's open all year long, we don't know, right? We have a closed population, so we're able to make that determination early.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, for the current fiscal year, we haven't exceeded our MEC allocation. So we're assuming that we'll continue to have enough funding for MECs next year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments for Laura? And Laura's seeking a motion, correct?
Motion to approve the following items as described below for fiscal year 25-26. What was presented, the reimbursement rates, the project caps, the allocations, and the moratoriums.
Second.
Thank you. Do I have any public comment?
You do not have any public comments online.
Looks like none in the room, so we shall move to vote.
Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill,
Aye.
Mike Hill,
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom,
Aye.
Rebecca Bettencourt,
Aye.
Ricky Smiles,
Aye.
Mike Greenlee, Derek Kirk.
Aye.
All right, so that is all approved for you, Laura. You're welcome. All right, so we're now moving into the NACIS Industries Economic Highlights before the industry recommendations or the combination. I know you guys usually tag team. So floor's all yours, whichever way around you're doing it. I know.
Good morning. All right. So good morning, panel members, stakeholders, and staff. My name is Jerry Jerome, Data Analytics Unit Manager with ETP. Here with us today is EDD's Labor Market Information Division Senior Research Specialist, Brandon Hooker. We will be providing separate presentations on priority industries. I'll provide some background for ETP's usage and designation process, and Brandon will present California's economic highlights, and I'll return with some additional information and an action item. Under the Unemployment Insurance Code, the legislature finds and declares that the panel must identify priority industries to promote a healthy labor market in a growing competitive economy, as well as maintain a system to continuously monitor economic and other data required under this plan. Listed here are priority industry-specific mentions that can be found in our legislation and regulation, as well as our ETP website. To help us maintain a system to continuously monitor economic trends and other data required, ETP is leveraging the North American Industry Classification System, or NAICS. NAICS is a standard system used by businesses and governments in the US, Canada, and Mexico. It's a numerical coding system that designates economic industry sector, so it essentially groups business establishments according to similarity. Shown here is a breakdown of how NAICS codes are broken down across North American countries. The first two digits, the first two numbers of the codes designate the economic industry sector. The remaining digits are comprised of the industry groupings and national industry subsectors. ETP operates on the national industry 6-digit code level. The panel establishes priorities for the fiscal year and identifies key industries that contribute to a healthy labor market. By reviewing things like employment projections, average weekly wages, and state economic factors, industries crucial in advancing California's workforce are identified and designated a priority industry. ETP bases its decision on legislation, California initiatives, and NAICS trends. ETP reviews applicants' NAICS codes to determine if an industry establishment is being threatened by out-of-state competition and if it qualifies as a priority industry. Employers that are determined to be within a designated priority industry may obtain benefits such as a higher reimbursement rate or qualify for lower wage requirements under set projects with panel approval on a case-by-case basis. Those wage modifications can allow for a broader range of trainees with lower wages to be eligible for the ETP program. This would allow trainees the opportunities for job growth and higher wages upon completion of the training. Again, this is done on a case-by-case basis. It's also important to note that non-priority industries can still, industry companies can still be funded. And priority industry status does not in any way indicate eligibility or guarantee funding. Currently, ETP considers 15 industries out of 20 as priority industry and providing 57% or 586 of overall business establishments with priority industry opportunities. By reviewing things like employment projections and average weekly wages, those industries fundamental to those states and economic growth are identified. Not all business establishments within these sectors may fall under the priority industry status. Applicants can check their priority industry status on the funding priority page of the ETP website. To help identify industries that may contribute to a flourishing economy, we've looked for ways to streamline the designation process. Our goal was to standardize ETP's approach relying on scientific data. The EDD Labor Market Information Division's mission is to help people understand California's economy and make informed labor market choices. So ETP partnered with LMID to gain data-driven analyses such as job growth and wage trends, concepts already adopted within our legislative statutes. Now I'd like to introduce Brandon Hooker, who will be providing some NAICS economic industry trends. And once he's complete, I'll return with this year's recommendations for priority industry designations.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Great to see everyone from last year and then new panel members this year. Great to see all of you. I'm Brandon Hooker, Senior Research Data Specialist from the EDD's Labor Market Information Division. And when we partnered with the ETP, we are analyzing a lot of the data sets we have so they could make a lot of their data-driven decisions. We used a lot of the job estimate data, a lot of the wage information, and also projections to see which industries really stood out from the pack, which ones were really going to give you the most bang for your buck. So we're going to just go into next slide, please. And again, as Geraldine mentioned, we entered into a partnership to analyze the current economic statistics so you can have better information in terms of where to prioritize funds. Next slide. Now, in terms of trade, transportation, and utilities, if you're not familiar with this industry, it's made up a lot of wholesalers, retail trade, also utilities. And when we're thinking about utilities, think about clean energy, wind energy, things of that nature. When we're looking at the largest concentration of jobs, they happen to be within retail trade at over 1.6 million jobs. But also what you're noticing is at the average weekly wages happen to be lower within retail trade. Obviously, it's tied to the lower skill sets that are necessary for the job, so they command lower wages. But when you're looking at some of the high-end jobs, the high-wage jobs, they are tied to utilities. California is obviously moving forward with its commitment to clean energy and using less of the fossil fuels. So we definitely see some growth in the future coming from the utilities end. When we're looking at the prioritized industries, utilities is going to be there. Again, with California's commitment to clean energy, it's going to open up more and more jobs across the state. Also, in terms of overall tourism within the state, we're seeing general increases as people come out of that COVID-19 recession. They held back on their vacations and spending money, but we got to remember that California is not only a domestic draw, it's also a global draw in terms of tourism. So we're going to see more of the increases on the food and beverage retailers, gasoline stations, as well as on the clothing end. Also, in terms of the overall port activity within California, the ports have been importing and exporting a number of products at a higher and faster rate. And when we're looking at that, we're looking at the support industries tied to that, and that's where you're going to see the truck transportation industry. Now, in particular, you're seeing the NAICS sector added on the bottom left, the merchant wholesalers, when you actually have a lot of that improved activity in the economy where consumers are spending. In the middle of that supply chain are the wholesalers, so they are critical to that overall economic activity within the trade, transportation, and utilities. On the pipeline transportation, where you see that removal, a lot of that is tied to a lot of the fossil fuel activity within the state. And again, California is pulling back from that. Next slide. In terms of information, when you think of information, think of the motion picture industry within the state. Also think about our software publishers within the state, the large software firms. When we're looking at the overall job trends within information, it has been down over this current year because of a lot of the restructuring that's going on in our IT firms. Also, as you're all familiar with, the strikes that went on within motion pictures, they still haven't really recovered from that. Also, there's a lot of global competition coming in for motion pictures. So a lot of the filming activity has changed in terms of where people are filming. So that's where we're seeing a lot of the downturn in information, especially on motion pictures. But when we're looking at, those are blacked out on the screen. I hope they're on your paper. But if we're looking at the bars to the right of that information one, in terms of information itself, The wages tied to that are tied to motion pictures, that 2,241. But when we're looking at that 8,000 bar, that's tied to a lot of the broadcasting. There's a lot of the IT firms are going to be within that. Also the ones that's 8,607, that far right one, that's a lot of the web search portals. So again, more of that high-end IT. So when you have high-end IT, you have a lot of high-skilled workers there, and they're going to command higher wages. When we're looking at overall projections, I talked about the information sector being down because of the restructuring, but as we move forward and as the information sector tries to settle, especially on the IT side, we're going to see some potential gains in the future, especially with the integration of AI within everything from healthcare to retail, et cetera. And those are the supports and the jobs there are going to come from information. Next slide. Now, in terms of the priority industries, looking at the priority industries, telecommunications, we see this as a growth industry. Telecommunications, again, this is more of the broadband activity, wireless carriers within the state. I was looking at an interesting stat going back to 2005 where people had maybe 30% of Californians had a cell phone, and now it's upwards of 97%. I'm not sure what the other 3% of people are doing, but when we're looking at growth, we're probably going to capture them in the future as well. In terms of computing infrastructure providers, we see high growth there. They're tied to a lot of the cloud-based services and a lot of the high-end IT application hosting within the state. Next slide. Now, in terms of financial activities has been down over the year. We see a lot of this, again, with more of the restructuring within the banking industry. You're going to be going to a bank and you're seeing fewer and fewer tellers, but you are seeing growth within banks in terms of the high-end services that they provide, financial planning, venture capital, things of that nature. That's where the true growth is. We're looking at the overall wages in comparison to the statewide average. The largest and highest wages come from finance and insurance. And when we're looking at the overall projections moving forward, we're seeing a lot of growth within the real estate side, tied to a lot of the housing gains that we've seen, and also securities and financial management. The next slide. Now, in terms of the overall priority industries themselves, credit intermediation is that banking industry where we're going to see more and more activity there. Also on the renting and leasing services, we're going to see more and more of that activity, and that's tied to a lot of the tourism. The rental activity can be anything from renting a car when you're coming on vacation, also when you're doing leisure activities, say with families, and you have to rent like a ski-doo or some kind of jet skis and things of that nature. That's included in that industry as well. Again, on the bottom left, the ETP's considerations tied to credit intermediation, they're going to be adding that. And again, that's with the increased banking activities. The securities and commodities contracts, potentially there could be a removal of that within the ETP considerations. Maybe there's going to be less activity on the financial end in the future. Next slide. Now, in terms of professional and business services, this has always been like the silver lining within California's economy. It's provided high-end jobs, high-wage jobs, and been pretty consistent within California's economy. We are seeing a slight decline in this. In terms of the overall activity, a lot of the losses are coming out of some of the computer system design services. Some of the accounting services have been down over the past year. But when you're looking at the overall wages, you see how it's higher than the statewide average of $1,694 a week. You're looking at upwards of $3,000 on the professional and business services. Management of companies is over $3,000 as well. And you're looking at the overall industry forecast on the short-term side, that 2023 to 2035. And on the long-term side, we just see high growth within this industry. It's always been a driver and also a draw for businesses coming outside of California and coming in to plant and grow within the state. Next slide. Now, in terms of the overall priority industries that are recommended, yes, right now we're seeing a little bit of a downturn on the accounting side, but as businesses improve, they're going to be needing more of those services moving forward. That's why they're prioritized. Also, on the architectural end, that's tied to a lot of not only the residential side, but the commercial building that we're getting. We're getting more and more federal funding for infrastructure within the state. so you're going to need more and more of these architectural services. And also on the advertising side, everything seems to be flashy and blasting in everyone's face. Advertising is definitely key. So having more and more of those firms growing within the state, we see that in the future. Next slide. In terms of other services is really dependent a lot on discretionary income of consumers. You're seeing the industries there tied to repair and maintenance, personal and laundry services, as well as a lot of the civic organizations within the state. And of course, the largest concentration is coming out of that civic organizations. That also is inclusive of political activities. So a lot of those firms tied to that are included in that group. When we're looking at the overall wages, though, within other services, typically a lot of the skills necessary to complete those jobs are lower than a lot of the high-tech end, so they command lower wages. But as we see consumers continuing to spend, and we see a robust economy, California is still in its over 50-month expansion. We're seeing consumers continuing to spend. It's tied to other economic indicators we've seen, consumer confidence indexes throughout the nation. We're seeing more and more growth in terms of overall spending, and that's where you're going to see the growth in other services. Next slide. Now, in terms of the other services that are recommended, we're recommending the repair and maintenance, especially this is tied to a lot of the automobiles. We've seen automobile sales have been steadily increasing over the course of the state's expansion. Consumers are still spending. Also, as a result of the tariffs last month, people were really buying automobiles before some of those high-end costs kick in terms of some of these import taxes. In regards to the civic organizations, the religious and grant making, there's always a need for a lot of the social services on the local end. So we're going to see these organizations potentially grow in the future. Next slide, please. And with that, we'll wrap up and pass it back to Geraldine.
Right. I just want to say thank you to Brandon and his team over at LMID for always providing a thorough analysis of industries and answering to our ad hoc requests whenever we need it. So moving on to ETP's factors for the recommendation consideration. ETP considers factors for priority industry recommendations when analyzing the LMID data and also compares it to ETP's current designations, policies, and regulation. We keep in mind our legislation and regulations supporting the retention and expansion of the manufacturing workforce and other industries that may be threatened by out-of-state and global competition. We take into account LMID's data-driven analyses and projections, including their industry employment, wage, and business trends and forecasts. And we also want to continue to support our legislative leaders with initiatives that impact the state's economy, such as reducing reliance on fossil fuels, including coal, to achieve carbon neutrality by 2045, supporting growth in California's creative economy, including film, music, digital, and media industries, and contributing to California's Job First Council by streamlining the state's economic and workforce development programs to create more jobs faster. So based on our analyses, LMID made some industry suggestions that we agreed with and some that we chose not to recommend based on those considered factors. ETP took into account LMID's data-driven analyses and projections, including their industry employment, business establishment, and wage trends. And for that, we're recommending to designate 56 new codes as priority industry. These industries particularly have jobs with a large concentration in wages and over the statewide average. There are a large number of businesses in the industry, like procurements, logistics, human resources, compliance, and cost analysis professionals, which are considered. Short-term and long-term employment projections or other industries in demand, like software engineers and telecommunication technicians, and also taking into account state initiatives that may affect or impact the state economy. Now, ETP deliberated over existing priority industry establishments to decide whether or not they should be considered for removal of designation. Within these sectors, they may have had nominal gains in employment compared to other industries. The overall for demand in jobs have been weakening over the years, or they may not align with some state initiatives. Again, we want to state that priority industry status does not in any way indicate eligibility or guarantee funding. Priority industry designations may provide benefits of a higher reimbursement rate or lower wage requirement, a panel approval on a case-by-case basis. And companies who are not designated a priority industry can still be funded with ETP. They just may not receive those benefits. Our goal is to foster a strong labor market while ensuring a system in place to track the fluctuations of the economy. We want to take a standardized approach relying on scientific data to identify industries most vital to California on a regular basis. We want to emphasize that priority industry does not in any way indicate eligibility or guaranteed funding, and those companies who are not designated a priority industry can still be funded. We also want to note that ATP is in a partnership with EDD's Labor Market Information Division, as they are subject matter experts, since they already collect and analyze California's labor trends. And we, in this presentation, we recommended to keep ETP's current priority industries and adopt new recommendations based on analysis, minus some codes that don't align with ETP legislation or state initiatives. In the recommendation, we're asking to add 56 new establishments to priority industry and remove 7 from current designations. And we want to keep this process each year and refine it to continue to target California industries. So now for our action item. Staff would like to know if a panel or stakeholders have any questions or desire for more conversations on these items. And we also request approval to adopt NAICS codes recommendations.
Thank you. As usual, it's a fascinating presentation. It makes your brain think. Sometimes I'm like, the numbers are going.
Hey, I have a question.
You got a question? Yeah, go ahead, Mike. It's on the hot
So
spot.
can you go back to the slide that where you're removing some of the codes? I just want to ask a question about one of them. I think it was called computer design and et cetera.
Yeah, that last one on the computer design and professional.
Oh, computer systems design, yeah. It's related to professional, scientific, and technical services. Is that something that doesn't align with the strategy of the state? Or is that a case where there's fewer and fewer organizations?
So currently within these, within this sector here, they have had maybe nominal gains in employment, or the jobs have been weakening over the years. So we're just not seeing too much of a growth in this sector, or it could be that maybe within these specific job code establishments, or within the specific titles, they may be changing titles to fluctuate more with AI services. So maybe they're not like an IT technician, maybe they're going more towards an automated type of line of work, which may be a different NAICS code.
Okay, panel member Hill. Yes, in regards to just IT in general, it's one of our most volatile industries. So what she was remarking and speaking on was the employment changes, and they can occur and be volatile just with the integration of new technologies. During this year, in particular, you're looking at some of the online job activity for jobs within computer systems design have been going down, but it's not to say that it won't rebound. But just it's reflective. I believe the removal is more reflective of just what was going on within the given year. And then when you're looking at the overall projections moving forward, then you're going to see some of that high-end growth within IT. But as of right now, it is subject to that volatility and that restructuring that is going on. So I believe that's tied to the removal with that.
Okay, I understand. I'm a little worried about the word scientific, removing that, because I think that's a innovation driver for the whole state. So
yeah.
I had a piece on it because I link it back to the information section. Again, it's to do with those categories of jobs, isn't it? And the buckets of industry, of how much of it should actually sit in information versus wherever it was. It's not computer systems, but in professional business. And I think it's that interchangeability, isn't it? Like we have 5 that we're adding in information that we talked about, the IT industry and the growth and volatility and all of this. And then in another category where it's IT related, we're removing. it
Yeah.
feels a bit.
Could I
that kind of
interject?
way. Yeah.
Yeah, and my understanding is, as we see the table outline, it's moving 4 codes within the professional, scientific, and technical services, but we have plenty of other NAICS codes. And so I think what I'm hearing is the volatility is affecting those specific 4 codes, but not necessarily the overall industry, right? And I think that's what you were just saying, Rebecca, as well, that we see just a kind of a niche area here that is seeing maybe a downtrend.
But it sits in a different category.
But it
That's
sits in a
what's
different
so weird
category,
is that
right.
we're increasing on one side, but on the information services, but under professional and business, we're removing an information services. I think that's a sort of information services job category. So it's just, I think it's the optics, isn't it, Mike? It seems a bit weird that we're removing here,
Chair
but we're
Betten-
adding here.
Yeah, Chair Betancourt, when you're looking at the coding system itself, it's based on their primary service. So they can vary, especially when you're really drilling down into that data. I believe it's using my glasses, right? 6 digits over there. I'm trying to just the old eye test. I'm looking, I see 6 digits. But when you're really drilling down, that's when you're going to see even more of that volatility. But yeah, you can have software firms within information, but then some of these are tied to a lot of those consultants that do a lot of the IT work, not just the big names that are out there in terms of stuff, but some of these that provide those niche services like Director Grimes was saying. So that's where you're seeing some of that volatility.
I will say though, I mean, I love ETP, and with all due respect, like I don't anticipate this priority designation like drastically moving markets or anything like that. However, like those 4 or 3 NAICS, however, I think it's like 4, 4 in NAICS codes in there are the NAICS codes that are tied to companies like Alphabet and Snap and a few other like major tech companies in California that are either in Los Angeles or in the Bay and are directly tied to, I mean, the Bay, we've seen some significant downturns and obviously some layoffs. And so while I don't think it's a hill I would choose to die on, I do think it is something for us to be cautious about in not identifying those particular companies as priority for this type of funding, given, like, yes, there are downturns, and in some ways we should be doing more proactive outreach to ensure that those companies understand the benefits and the incentives that are available and the opportunities to continue to grow in California so that they're not leaving. And so I think totally understand the top 2. Not sure that I support the bottom one. I think it's more of an optics thing for me of making sure that we kind of understand and recognize that this industry is absolutely critical, and again realizing that there's an immense amount of nuance in all of the NAICS codes and in the variety thereof, and many companies will use multiple NAICS codes for their different services, but that's where I'm at.
Can I just to put it into the record, the recommendation to remove the pipeline transportation NICS codes is not related to the pipeline or transportation of hydrogen, and because that industry is going to start really booming at all. So where does pipeline and transportation of hydrogen come in? Like, what is it in a separate NICS codes covered?
It's when you drill down to more of that 6-digit level. So this could be pipeline transportation of different types of fuels, including hydrogen. So that's more of a summary level. So it's when you drill down to those 6 digits, that's when you start breaking out some more of that detailed information.
So the hydrogen industry might be included in this recommendation for removal.
I believe we checked with you with that, Brandon, and it does fall under a different NAICS code. 4869990 was the code that falls under the hydrogen pipeline transportation, and we removed that.
Can you speak to me about the NICS codes with the recommendation to add under finance and insurance, credit intermediation, and related activities, and what that looks like? Those kinds of specific jobs.
Yeah, those types of jobs would be tied more to the financial planners, some of the high-end jobs that are done within the banking industry, not so much on the bank teller side. Also those that are tied to a lot of venture capital, and those that do more of the advising directly for firms in terms of their overall financial structure. So that's where they would be.
And the repair and maintenance industry group is still overly reliant on a compensation structure associated with piece pay rates, correct?
It depends on the overall breakout. So if you're looking at automotive repair, that's going to be more of like on an hourly or potential salary basis. Other types of repair and maintenance, again, it depends on the firm itself. So
Yes, I've spoken to this before and have an overall kind of aversion to industries that pay piece pay rates because I don't believe it aligns with the principles that we have of investing in high road jobs that promote stable and sustainable wages. So that's one that I'm not comfortable with prioritizing. Of course, they're welcome to come here under separate accordance, but to prioritize them to get these additional benefits is not where I'm comfortable.
Sorry, can you repeat which NICs you're talking about, Gretchen?
It's the last one that they're seeking to add, the repair and maintenance. The 13 NAICS codes associated with it.
Thanks.
I think that's a hard one, that repair and maintenance, because I think it's a mix depending on how they're employed and how they're compensated, because there are both sides. It's not like it's a trade where it's predominantly one or the other. I look at some of the repair and maintenance in another angle of it's what's building a lot of the infrastructure for our small businesses who may be having to outsource some of that work because they do not have it in-house. And it's supporting those small businesses, those small manufacturers, those that may not have their in-house to do that piece. And I don't know, the broad stroke of compensation is very, very hard. And I know we can't say if it's this one. And of course, if they come to panel, there's always a conversation about piece rate. And I think.
But now we're prioritizing the ability to get lower wages associated with that.
But I don't know if they all are lower wages. I think many of them are also salaried. And I think that's what we have. It's a hard one when we start getting down to the compensation structure, because I feel like it's dependent on the individual employer. Category wise, it's sort of important to the infrastructure, especially to our small businesses, more so than say our large ones, because there are a lot who do bring these people in to do that. How they're compensated, I have no clue. And I don't think we can drill that. If we knew 75% were more in piece, right? And usually they're meeting at least minimum, not saying they shouldn't be reaching higher than that. It's a hard one until it comes to us to sort of say, and we can have that conversation. Because that's what's in the regs on that, around those pieces.
I'll be a little concerned with removing it too, just because I know there's a worldwide shortage of equipment maintenance folks. And it's true in the US, hard to find these people.
Yeah.
So I would.
Yeah, try finding a mechanic with multiple years of experience and you can have a job opening for some time. And that drives the wages. It already does.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Some good conversation. How are we feeling about what's the recommendations on code changes of removal? I know we kind of talked a bit about that last one on computer systems. I don't know if we netted out of removing or not removing, but we had a good conversation there. I'm looking at panel. Any more discussion before I ask you guys to decide what we want to do with
Can I
this?
propose that we retain that one, that bottom one?
That bottom computer-based one? Okay. So if we're making an approval, because we do have to make an action on this, Mike, are you saying that is what your motion would be? Want to try it and see?
Yeah, so I guess,
If I have a motion, we might get an approval.
I guess my emotion is to, first of all, retain all the ones that are on the top part here. Industry priority, industry considerations, and then to, regarding the ones that were recommended for removal, to retain the bottom one, which is the computer systems design and related services, then NICS code 5415 and related codes.
Sounds good. So you're saying keep everything in that and the computer systems and the other two remove. All right. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment on this?
We have one public comment online,
Okay, let's go ahead.
from Michelle Rickner. Michelle, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, panel members and stakeholders. Michelle Rickner with Training Funding Partners. Can you hear me okay?
Can.
Okay, thank you. Is it loud? It sounds loud
You're
to me.
nice and loud, Michelle. You're nice
Sorry.
and loud.
I don't know how to change that.
It's all
Um,
right.
I appreciate this discussion around NAICS, and I do appreciate that it comes back every year, and I think we should, continue that. And I do like the discussion around, what just happened around, maybe keeping some on there. I think it was either last year or the year before in this discussion, LMID had their recommendations and panel accepted those. And one of the industries that was left out, which I don't know if it was inadvertent or not, which I think is super critical to the California economy, is hospitals. So healthcare is still in there, but hospitals, who have always been a priority for ETP, have been removed as a priority industry. And post-COVID, it's really hard to keep people in that industry. It's a lot of turnover, and I think that the ETP's funding and making them a priority industry would really help to sustain that. And obviously, healthcare reaches all areas of our state. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other public comment?
There are no other public comments online.
All righty, so I think we are going to be able to go to vote.
Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill,
Aye.
Mike Hill,
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom, Rebecca Betancourt,
Aye.
Ricky Smiles,
Aye.
Mike Greenlee,
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
All righty, so it's all approved with those codes with that addition. Thank you. All right, Heather, floor's all yours.
Last but not least. Okay. Smart brevity, as Dr. Grimes mentioned, so I will not take much of your time. I'm here to present the amended guidelines for the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program, or EVITP Fund. Just a real quick background, ETP has partnered with the California Energy Commission to train and certify 3,000 electricians in the EVITP curriculum. These guidelines were brought to you all back in January. However, we have received feedback on certain aspects of the program design, and in order to allow as much flexibility as possible within the program, we are bringing them to you with some tweaks. So if you look at the memo in the packet, I'm going to jump to the first bullet. You'll note that it says, ensure that a minimum of 50% of the funds are marketed to and invested in employers or individuals in disadvantaged, low-income, and rural areas. This adds the word individuals to this requirement. Initially, the intent of the program design was to market and invest the funding to employers. However, we understand that this approach may leave out electricians who might be in between jobs who would like to upgrade their skills. So this change will allow grant awardees to serve and reimburse those trainees directly. The second bullet on the memo clarified that apprenticeship training committees may apply. It was always our intent to include those organizations, but was inadvertently left out during our initial guideline, which panel member Newsom clarified for us. But since we're bringing them back to you, we're adding it into the guidelines. And then finally, the third bullet clarifies that the reporting and performance requirements will include EVITP certification numbers for the folks that receive those certifications, as well as quarterly progress reports. Initially, there was an employment verification component to the program, but again, in order to serve as many folks as possible, including unemployed electricians, we have removed this requirement. You'll also see in the panel packet the original guidelines with the changes highlighted and indicated on those guidelines. I do want to give you just a brief update. ETP did post a solicitation for proposal at the end of March. That solicitation was paused, and if the changes included in this memo are approved today, staff will work to repost that solicitation as quickly as possible. We are asking for you to vote on these amended guidelines, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
All right, does anyone have any questions?
Sorry, Heather, I just had like a complete pause of my brain.
It's okay.
Any
I
more
spoke
tracking?
very fast, so.
Good. Are we extending the deadline because we paused it and then we're going to extend it the same amount of days that it was paused, or when is the new deadline?
Yeah, so it's a little bit in flux right now. Our hope is to release May 1st with a due date of the 16th. Initially, we posted it for a little bit longer, but we think because the changes are fairly minor, it's just over 2 weeks, should be enough time for folks to apply.
Any other questions?
A motion to approve the recommendation by staff.
Mm-hmm. Motion to approve which the recommendations on, just so we make sure, because otherwise I'll get the.
The AVITP fund program.
Thank you, Rick. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any public comments on this matter?
There are no public comments online.
There look like there are none in the room, so we'll move to vote.
Douglas Tracy, Jennifer Fothergill.
Aye.
Mike Hill.
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom, Rebecca Betancourt,
Aye.
Ricky Smiles,
Aye.
Mike Greenlee,
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
Alrighty, so that is all approved and those changes approved. Okay, I guess it comes back to me now. It's coming back to wrapping up this meeting, I think. So first thing I just want to ask panel, has anyone got anything they want to request for future agenda items for future panel meetings? And I hear crickets. All right. Now we're going to switch over to that fabulous time of public comment, because it's the time for all of our public to address the panel on issues that are not scheduled on today's agenda. We obviously cannot act, but we can listen to any of the matters, and we may refer to staff. So does anyone have public comment? I can see Phil sauntering up to the podium. Are you coming up, or are you just stretching your legs? I didn't know. You were like moving, but I was like, he's going to sit down. Is he stretching his legs? I mean, we've been sat for a while.
Spending too
All right.
much time over there, so I
You
gotta
know.
say, we're in full support, like he's been coming over there. But I did want to just share some positive news with the legislature and the governor and GoBiz. The budget allocation that the governor included in January, we've had different meetings with finance to ensure that we'll see that 50 million back in the May revise, and we remain very hopeful that that will happen. We did get some pushback. I know that you know this, is that there is a huge UI obligation that the state of California is on the hook for. That is something that is a real problem for ETP funding in statute. And Cable knows this, is that they legally can go and use our money to pay that down. So we just try our best to ensure that that doesn't happen. So I wouldn't worry about AB 765 at this point. It did its job, and it will be a 2-year bill. So anyway, thank you again for all the good work. The policy committee meeting was awesome yesterday, to keep that up. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Anyone else? Any online?
We have one public comment online from Rocio Leon. Rocio, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to make this really quick. I made a public comment at the last panel meeting, and because the sound quality was bad, I think it was heard as the exact opposite of what I was intending. I was extending kudos and gratitude and thanks, and I think the feedback I got is it was actually heard as a criticism. So let me be very clear. I was saying that my experience with ETP over all the years that I've worked with the team has been that it is a spirit of communication, openness, and collaborativeness. It has been tough with the pandemic and other factors in being able to communicate and be as open with staff as what has been in the past. Small change, but significant change. Phone numbers in people's signature lines on emails, being able to reach a human being and actually solve a problem quickly and collaboratively. I am grateful. I appreciate the spirit with which the changes that are happening at ETP. And again, just thank you and all good. Thank you.
Thanks, Rocio. Any other public comment?
There are no further comments online.
All right, so there's no one running to the podium. There's very few public left in the
Motion
room.
to adjourn.
She's there. I don't even have to do it. Motion to adjourn here. Do I have a second? Rick seconded it. We have to go to vote. I'm not going to ask for public comment on this one. We're going to go to vote.
Douglas Tracy.
Aye.
Jennifer Fothergill.
Aye.
Mike Hill.
Aye.
Gretchen Newsom.
Aye.
Rebecca Bettencourt.
Aye.
Ricky Smiles.
Aye.
Mike Greenlee.
Aye.
Derek Kirk.
Aye.
Alrighty, we're going to call this motion to end at 11:09. We're done.